Hello, Matt.
Hey, Danny, how are you?
I'm very well. You?
I'm doing well. Where are you?
Seattle.
Seattle. For the premiere of the film, I guess, tonight.
I know we're going. We showed the film here last night.
Oh, I see.
And we're off to Denver in an hour or so, actually.
Oh, wow. Well, you're really jetting around.
Jetting around. Yeah, Denver's quite interesting because it's Aaron Ralston's home state. So we're doing a screening there, and Aaron will be there with his family, and he lives in Aspen, Colorado. And so that'll be cool. And then we go to Salt Lake City where we made the film. You know, and a lot of the cast and crew live there. We'll do a cast and crew screening there, and then we'll jet home.
Nice. Where's home for you? Still England, I assume?
London,
right.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Aaron Ralston. Let's start right there. Did you read his book prior to this, or did someone give it to you as, you should make a movie of this?
No. I read his book in 2006, and I approached him then actually about making it as a film much in the way it is at the moment, sort of, with an actor playing the part and as what we call a first-person immersive experience. Mm-hmm. And he didn't want to do it like that. He wanted to do it as a documentary then. He was very clear. He wanted to control the voice in the film and control the facts, and I could understand that. I was disappointed because I had a very clear vision of how I thought it could be done, but he was, obviously it's his story, and he wasn't prepared to hand it over to anybody at that stage, really, which, as I said, I could understand. So we agreed to meet again another day, which we duly did, thanks to Slumdog Millionaire, really, which was, I think, allowed him. Well, there was a number of changes. I mean, I think that made him realise we'd make a decent film, and it could be quite tough. We weren't going to kind of back away because there's some tough stuff in Slumdog which people forget because of the happy ending, I suppose. Right. It would allow us to get finance, maybe, because I think he tried to get the documentary finance for a number of years, and it proved very difficult because it's a very, the prospect for a studio for this kind of film is very tough. And thirdly, I think he to be honest, he changed as a person. He'd met his wife, and I think Jessica, who appears very briefly at the end of the film, I think she had allowed him to kind of trust someone else with the story. Because we said to him, James and I said to him, you've got to let us tell the story in our way. We do want you involved the whole time, but we don't want you overshadowing the film. This is not an impersonation. It's not a documentary. James has to live this, and people have to believe it's happening to him. It has to be a full experience like that. And it's only that way that we'll deliver something to you that when you see it, you'll believe it, and you'll think, okay. If you're there the whole time, it'll be, James will be looking over his shoulder the whole time, and it'll be inhibited. And he was great, and he came a few times, and he helped us a lot on the script, obviously, and in pre-production. And then he came out filming with us for a few days, and then we put his friends and him in the end of the film, and he's very proud of the film. So I'm glad to report it worked for him. So we've seen the film a few times now.
That's fantastic. I hear it's the first screenplay that you've written.
Yes, I'm not really a writer, to be honest, but in this one I had such a kind of intense idea of how it might work that Simon and Christian and we'd all worked together on Slumdog, said, I think you should write it first, try and get a draft down and see if you can get it onto the paper, and then we'll have a look at it. And I did do that, so I did a couple of drafts, and then thank God Simon took over and I could go back to my day job. And, because I spent, all the stories writers told me about the loneliness of writing, I spent the summer kind of experiencing that, really, of just sitting there, listening to the radio, making tea, wandering around the house, taking phone calls, not writing. And then you get the 20 minutes where you actually write something, and, that whole story. So
I'm assuming you don't want to write again? Not something you're interested in?
I'm quite happy for other people to do it, yes.
Fair enough. So the movie does take place. We know it's basically just, I guess the best reference would be Castaway with Tom Hanks. It's just a one-person film, basically.
It is, yes, and it's curiously, although it's more restricted than that, because obviously it hasn't got an island to run around.
Right.
It's got, I think, dare I say it, I think it's got kind of more momentum than that film, because it is so reductive. It is so compressed into this tiny corridor that he's in, this canyon, and it's so intense the experience that you feel a velocity about the movement forward in it, some of which is futile, his physical attempts to get out, and some of which is deeply significant, the way he changes his self, the way he begins to realize what he has to change in himself to make this something that he can get out of, because there's no way that that his physical prowess will get him out of there, which is proved by the first scene when he tries to move the rock. it kind of like, all his mighty power, all those things that he went into that canyon with, the sense of himself, the pleasure he took in his life, the independence, the self-reliance, he kind of like is an achiever. Everything's an achievement. And none of that's any good to him suddenly. It's like nature intervenes and makes him look at himself much more deeply. And he realizes that the important things are the things that he's fleeing from. So in the beginning of the film, he drives, flees the city and the crowds, and he realizes the preciousness of that contact now. Because here he is in the middle of nowhere. And the only way he can simulate anything to do with that preciousness is leaving messages on this videotape he has, video camera.
Did you use any of those in the film, or did you recreate them?
We recreated them. His mum doesn't want the real ones used in any way. And,
no, fair enough.
Which is obviously you back off then. But he did show them to us, and they are very surprising because they're very dignified. Actually, you expect them because of the reluctance for anybody to see them. You think they're going to be very abject or distressing. They're actually very dignified, in which a young man who clearly not thinks he's going to die, knows he's dying, tries to leave some messages for his mum especially that will help her, or try to help her cope with the agony of having found, having discovered that he's died, and that's the last will and testament on the tape, describing how he coped with the last few days. So they're beautiful messages and very tender and moving because of that. And so we recreated those with the same camera. James recorded his own versions of them, but a lot of them are verbatim, yeah.
How different is it directing an actor looking into a camera, talking to an audience, as opposed to just regular dialogue?
Good question.
Thank you.
I learned a lot about film acting, actually, on this film, and that was one of the things where it manifested itself most acutely. I come from a culture which is quite theatrical. British film acting and theatre acting is excellent, as we know, but it's quite big. Quite theatrical. And I found working with James was extraordinary. He's one of these guys, it's all about relaxation. And it doesn't matter what the scene is, it can be the most moving, intense, terrifying scene, but he floats into it like a surfer, just totally relaxed. And it's amazing the intimacy that creates with the camera, the ease there is between the camera and him. And in a cinema, when it's 40 foot high, you can see why they recommend that as a technique. Because there's no barrier at all. There's no sense of performance, unless it's very deliberately performed, like when he plays the talk show host. It's just like, it's intimate, like it's looking right inside him. And it's very still. And I kind of heard about it. Obviously, you read about it. I'd heard about it. I'd had a few little experience of it. Leonardo DiCaprio, who I work with, has got a bit of that in him as well. But James was extraordinary in that way. And I learned a lot about screen acting from that. It's a wonderful It's a wonderful piece of cinema acting,
Do you shoot for the? I assume, speaking the way you're speaking, you shoot for the cinema. You don't worry about for release on DVD and home theaters later on.
Well, it's hard to say, isn't it? I mean, I've been told not to say this, but I don't think this film will work as well on a DVD.
No, you probably shouldn't.
I shouldn't say it, but it's true in the cinema. I think this is because you're surrounded by it and you're trapped like he is. You're in a black space with people you don't know, and you're all bought into it together, and you're going to stick through it. And the intensity of the experience, I worry that will it transfer onto DVD? I worry about that. But so I do hope people can see it in the cinema, because it's not just one to cover in the cinema. It's something to have in it. It's not often you get that kind of journey in a cinema film, where you're watching something beyond just the storytelling,
I know we're a little low on time here, so I just got a couple of quick questions for you.
Us a signal.
Yeah. So we do a little game called 5 questions. 5 quick questions, 1 word answers. Yeah. Spielberg or Scorsese?
Oh, Scorsese-berg.
Lennon or McCartney?
Scorsese-Beale. Scorsese-berg. Yeah.
Okay. Lennon or
to that question.
Lennon or McCartney?
Oh, Lennon.
Hitchcock or Kubrick?
Oh, for me, Hitchcock, I think.
Film you're most proud.
No, actually, no, that's not right.
No,
that's not right. Kubrick, yeah.
Film you're most proud of.
Oh, I can't answer that. Will not answer that.
Okay.
They're like kids. You can't do that. It's really.
Oh, fair enough.
horrible.
Fair enough. 1 word. Danny Boyle.
Speechless.
Speechless. Thank you. So what's next for you? You've seemed to run the gambit of every type of film. Musical?
No, I wish. Yeah. No, I'm doing a theatre play actually at the National Theatre in London. I'm doing a new adaptation of Frankenstein.
Oh wow, nice.
The Mary Shelley book as a theatre play. Yeah. So that's which will open in February actually. So
fantastic.
That's next.